getting pretty good at this.
Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, Calvary family. Thank you if you're able to join us here on this live stream. We are coming to you today with just a brief updated announcement. I'm sure that many of you are aware that Governor Mills on March 31st provided new guidelines for us in our state in terms of the health situation that we're in. Those became effective on Thursday at midnight. And so our elders met last night on a Zoom call to discuss what our church needs to do going forward to honor that mandate. And so we thought we'd come to you today to share a little bit about that. So Dan, What are the things that we are going to do? Are there any differences?
So first of all, you notice we're in the sanctuary. We're live streaming right now. So are we being defiant or are we being compliant? And so here's what I'm going to do is this new development, it hit Tuesday night, like you said, and kind of hit like a bomb. It didn't surprise me that it came, but I didn't know it was coming. And suddenly Tuesday night, my phone lights up with texts. Are you seeing this? What does it mean? Mm-hmm. So Tuesday night, we did some initial reading. The elders got together on a Zoom call, and then also the Christian Civic League of Maine has been in conversation with Governor Mills' administration, and they offered some insight as well. Yeah. So let me just kind of walk down and walk through some of the things that have happened. So there were actually two executive orders. There was one on the 31st, but there was a prior one on the 24th, and the order on the 31st did reference the order on the 24th, so there's a little continuity there. Neither of the executive orders identified churches under one of two categories. Either you are an essential business and operation or non-essential, and it didn't say what churches were. We have decided, in the spirit of the executive order and to honor the governing authorities, we are considering ourselves non-essential. That's not a theological assessment. That's just us wanting to honor.
And when you say non-essential in terms of our previous operation.
Yes, and how they have defined essential and non-essential. Yes. Now, what's interesting is Texas. The governor in Texas did issue an order that churches are considered essential. Okay. But we have not received that yet. So we're trying to honor it, and this is what we found. The March 31st executive order did say that workers of a non-essential business and organization could travel to and from the place of work to engage in minimal operations. And that's left open to our definition, but we are allowed to be here to do minimal operations. It then referred us back to the March 24th executive order for what we can do as a non-essential business and operation. Here's what we are able to do in accordance to the March 24th executive order. We can do three things. We can, or rather we cannot, allow people to come into the building for in-person contact. We cannot force workers to be in close contact with one another. So I can't force you to be in an enclosed space with me. That if you want to maintain your distance, I've got to allow you to do that. And then it does encourage us to do as much work possible remotely. But it also says that we can come in, we can check on the facility, we can ensure security. And then again, going back to the March 31st order, we are allowed to do minimal operations. Now, in addition to that, just yesterday, the Christian Civic League of Maine, in conversation with Governor Mills' administration, released some further guidelines. Specifically, what about churches that are doing live streaming? Can they still come into the building to do that live streaming? So our elders came together, and taking all of that into consideration, this now is how all of this is going to affect Calvary Baptist Church. Okay. First of all, the building is now closed to all non-staff. Now, the doors had already been locked, but Beth was in the building, you and I were in the building, and if someone came by the building, they could come in. If they knocked on the door, there's a good chance we would let them in, so long as we maintained that under 10 limit. But now, on the basis of this, we made the decision, the building is closed. Calls and emails will be forwarded, and so if you call, Beth will still pick up. She just won't be on site. Pastoral staff, you and I, though, can still work from our offices as needed. So again, one of the executive orders said we need to do as much as possible from home. But here in the building, we have the equipment to do live streaming, and we have the bandwidth necessary to do live streaming. I tried to do a couple live streaming from the Russell home. It didn't look. We have spotty internet at home, and it didn't always look good. We have good bandwidth here. We have the equipment here, but the building is closed to all non-staff. However, because we have the equipment and the bandwidth here, we can still come here and we can do that. We can do these live updates. We can do communications, the Bible study. We can still do that. We're doing our best to maintain our own social distancing, but we're still allowed to do that here in the building. And we are allowed to live stream worship services on Sunday morning, so long as we have minimal staffing for that. Now, here's the thing. We already cut back a lot with what we were already doing. So we as elders feel comfortable that we can honor the executive order, still do the live streaming the way that we've been doing them. Now, we have communicated to those that participate that it's up to them and their comfort level. If they don't feel comfortable coming in, we're not asking them to come in. But whoever of the group that was already here, we're not going to make it bigger, but of the group that we already had, those people are welcome and able to come in and to continue our live streaming worship on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock. So in a lot of ways, our online presence will not be changed by this.
Okay, so just summarizing, we're not expecting, no, church family is not reaching out to us by their physical presence here at the building. The buildings are all closed.
Buildings are closed
and
down.
No one is coming expecting to meet with us in person.
No.
But what they have been experiencing in our online presence, we believe will go on in a similar fashion.
It will.
They won't see much interruption or change to what we have been doing there.
No, not at all.
Okay.
And that's been the blessing of our modern technologies, that we've been able to do this. So fortunately now we are able to continue doing this. Now, I had one more thing, is that when the executive order was initially announced, the state of Maine website did have in their official declaration an email address that you could email for further questions. I did send an email to that address explaining what we do on Sunday mornings and asking, are we still in compliance? So we feel, based on our reading of the two executive orders and the Christian Civic League, that we're good. Now, if the state of Maine emails us back and tells us differently, then we'll have a conversation about that, because we want to find that balance of honoring the governing authorities, that's Romans 13, but also doing what we were created to do, which is to worship God. And we can't come in the room together, but we are coming together online, and we want to keep doing that.
Very good. So I don't know what your experience has been over these past few weeks, but from what I've been hearing from people and my own experience is that there are days when we are quite hopeful and living strong in our faith. And then there are days when we get a steady stream of information, frankly, you could have through media input. And sometimes what you hear can be unsettling. And so I hear that there are folks that are anxious from time to time. So again, we admonish or ask that you keep going back to God's word. That's where we really get the strength and faith that we need, even in difficult times. And so you had a passage of scripture you thought was pertinent to some that might be struggling with anxiety even now, that you thought you would have.
I do. This is just an encouraging word. This comes from Isaiah chapter 35. It's verse 4, and it says, "Say to those who have an anxious heart, be strong. Fear not. Behold, your God will come. He will come and save you." And that's the great hope that we have, is God is strong. God's got this. There's nothing stronger than God. And even if the worst in this world comes to pass, that someone we know and love, or even ourselves, we come down with this virus and it takes us out of this life. Through Jesus Christ, though, we still have won because we get to go and be in his presence and be reconciled with God. So God is strong. He will come. He will save. We're praying for him to save us here. But again, we have an eternal hope waiting for us also. And I think that's good news. And that's important for us to keep in mind, even in this crazy, crazy world.
So hopefully people have our contact information. All of these venues are still open, our website, our Facebook page. People who have our numbers are texting us, our own email addresses, all of that is still active and being checked. And hopefully this was clarifying and helpful. And if there are questions, hopefully people will reach out to us and we can respond individually as those questions arise.
That's right. So that's right. Drop your questions in the comment section below. And as always, I'm still not used to saying this, but subscribe to our YouTube channel for further updates. Thank you, everyone, and God bless. Oh, we did get a